Tenacity, endurance, passion, and ambition. These 4 traits go hand in hand. They are rare virtues, and when discovered can be difficult to nurture. But when handled well, they can be the tools to success and victory. However, tenacity easily turns to stubbornness. Endurance easily turns to thickness. Passion can easily turn to obsession, and ambition can so readily turn to self-destruction. The 4 virtues can turn on one who does not nurture them properly, and the very tools of the one's victory will turn to their greatest downfall. And such is the tragic tale of Fang Min. Welcome, my friends, back to the fog, a realm of monsters and survivors, a world where a mad god mocks the boundaries of life and death as killers chase and butcher victims in the name of a sick and twisted game. But among the desperate survivors is someone who's a bit of a gamer herself. Meet Feng Min. From the time she was a child, Fang Min had a fascination with video games. Whole new worlds, ideas, and possibilities were open to her, and at first her parents didn't mind her playing games every now and then. But Fang's passion swiftly turned to obsession. She spent hours and sometimes days playing video games, and her parents became very concerned. They pushed her to study and focus on her schoolwork, and Fang was dejected. Her parents just couldn't understand the wonder and the joy she felt when playing video games. Eventually, she left home for good and spent her time in places with free internet where she could indulge in her hobby. She saw her parents less and less, referring to them as holiday parents, as she would only visit them on holidays. Fang eventually found a new calling in the world of esports. Her skill in online gaming had grown to the point that she'd obtained recognition from a licensed esports team. Nicknamed the Shining Lion, she became a sensation in the world of esports. At the top of her game, she drew crowds of people to the stadium that she would sell out. But the drive to be the best took its inevitable toll on her. She was sleeping less, practicing more, staying up super late, taking energy drinks and caffeine to excess to stay at peak gaming potential, and yet it all caved in on her. Her performance was slipping. She'd stay up nights, and when not gaming, she was having nervous episodes, worrying about how her fans, her teammates, and even her parents would feel about her, if they could see her now, of course. Would they be disappointed? Of course they would. So she ran from the pressure. She spent some nights wandering the streets and frequenting bars where no one knew her name or what esports was. She'd drink herself stupid and wake up in places without knowing how or why she was there. And one night she awoke in a world totally different than any other. A world of fog, death, and blood. But while this would break some people's spirits, it only invigorated her. Fang Min was a girl who always rose to a challenge, and this was one challenge she would not lose. For the lore of Fang Min, I love it and hate it at the same time. Picture for me that you're watching a race, right? You see this guy pull ahead of the pack, sprinting at absolute insane speeds. He's a shoo-in to win it. You're pumped to see him win. You're cheering his name. You're so excited to see him reach the finish line. Then on the last 50 meters, he just stops dead and walks off the track. That disappointment is kind of how I felt with Feng Min's story. Fang's story starts out really well. A girl who's obsessed with games. Her parents don't understand it, but she still pursued it. She goes into a downward spiral of her life, all because her passion turned to obsession, her ambition turned to self-destruction, her virtues and tenacity all falling out from underneath her. She's a classic prodigal son story, and for those who don't know what that is, it's a biblical parable told by Jesus. You know what, I might do a video on that. Save that for later. I actually thought it was fascinating in her lore where it said that in her nervous breakdowns she thought of her parents. This would be the ultimate in tragedy, wouldn't it? As her life hits rock bottom, she remembers her family and how they loved her. And maybe that drives her to try and reach out to them, to rekindle that relationship and discover that what she needed wasn't behind a computer screen, but it was her family. Only for the entity to claim her before she can reach out to them. Like she's driving home and then that's when the entity gets her. The greatest and tragic irony. I would have loved that. But instead, she gets taken while getting drunken over her falling from grace. So, yeah, that's it. She has this moment where she starts to realize, maybe I am the biggest mistake in my life. Well, back to making more mistakes, I wouldn't mind that so much, but then it ends with her feeling optimistic. No, I'm going to read this straight from the wiki. It says, Fang Min did not despair. As she learned more about the challenge she was up against, she realized that this was what she'd been training for her entire life. Now she was going to win. I'm sorry, that doesn't add up to me. Fang Min is an isolated game junkie. That doesn't translate into survival skills. If this were some kind of video game competition, that'd be one thing, and yes, I recognize the irony of that statement. But this is a fight for your very life, and she's excited? I don't mind her coming at it with the attitude of, I'm going to try and overcome this challenge, but to believe that this is what I've been training for? No, that only works if we establish that Feng Min is a thrill seeker. Instead of a heavy gamer, she's a thrill seeker who enjoys looking for bigger and stronger challenges. That would have made more sense. But as it stands, her reaction to the fog, where she says, this is what I've been training for my entire life, it makes no sense. It just makes no sense given what we know and what we were told in her backstory. But the truth is, most people don't like Fang for her lore, or actually, maybe they do. Come to think of it, maybe they identify with a person who obsesses over video games, ruining her family life and relationships, plunging into self-destructive habits, but in the end, the character feels justified in the end. Wow. What does that say about the DBD community? Topical. But actually what they love is her perks. Fang has 3 unique perks: Technician, Lithe, and Alert. Technician helps Feng Min when she makes an error. If you miss a skill check while working on a generator, the generator won't explode and it won't give away your location. However, in exchange for that, it will add an extra regression penalty as a result.
So how's Gracie?
She's just laying here.
A lazy bum.
Yeah, she meowed being awesome this morning. She was like,
This perk is essential for new players who aren't good at skill checks yet. It's a nice cushion to help them as they learn the timing. It's also really helpful when you're up against the doctor killer whose madness can make skill checks difficult. Lithe is pretty simple to understand. It's useful for escaping the killer. When you perform a rushed vault action, you sprint at 150% your normal speed for 3 seconds, but you do suffer the exhaustion status effect afterwards for up to 40 seconds. A useful little tool in fleeing a killer, and you have the chance to leap away, so pretty self-explanatory. Now, Alert is probably her most popular, if I had to guess, because of how useful it is at intel gathering. With Alert active, anytime the killer does a breaking action, like either breaking a generator or a pallet or a wall, you will see their aura for 5 seconds.
What they did was they made him hit harder, the mechanics. If you make even a tiny mistake, he will destroy you.
oh, that's how they get over.
Yep, it's a classic Dark Souls tactic.
This doesn't seem like much, but while working on a generator, it's a great way to take note of a killer's location and if they're nearby. If you don't see their aura for a while, be on your guard and ready to run at any time. But if you suddenly see their aura far away, breaking pallet after pallet, then they're likely chasing someone else, and you're safe for a while. Coupled with Technician, Alert is very useful. If I get distracted checking on an aura and I miss a skill check, I don't suffer too great a loss. And if I should have to run fast, I have only to run towards a vault location and take advantage of Lithe. Feng Min's whole perk combination centers around the cautious fixture. She can fix a generator without fear of drawing attention, but also be aware of the location of the killer and able to bolt if necessary. The thing is, though, I would say that this fits her character well, but frankly, it's hard to really say if it does or doesn't. I guess you can argue that Alert works well because gamers are always on the alert and, always hypersensitive, but Lithe? Which of her skills in gaming translate into Lithe? It's never established that she's athletic. Sorry, Fang's a little confusing. I think that's what I have to say about her. Fang's a little confusing. Her perks don't seem to connect well to what she is in lore. Her lore tries to be this prodigal son story, but then fails at the last minute. It's all kinds of confusing, but I can't bring myself to hate her. Her perks are good, even if they don't make a lot of sense for her character, and some of her customizable options are cute. I can't bring myself to hate her, but boy, does she wear me out with how confusing she is. Usually I do a really cool outro here, but hard to think of a good one for this. It's been kind of all over the place, hasn't it? Sometimes in the fog, not everything is as it seems. So until next time, my friends, when I see you in the fog, take care.